"Are you deaf, old man?" I said, "Move it." The voice was sharp, laced with the kind of arrogant impatience that only youth and a brand-new uniform can produce. It cut through the low hum of the training facility's fluorescent lights, echoing off the polished linoleum floor. Samuel Finch didn't flinch. At 84 years old, he'd heard worse. He slowly, deliberately, drew the mop back, the gray strings sloshing softly in the bucket of murky water. He was just a janitor, a ghost in khaki work clothes who haunted the hallways of Fort Braden, invisible to the waves of young, eager soldiers who marched through its corridors. The recruit, a kid barely out of his teens with a chest puffed out so far it looked like it might burst the buttons on his fatigues, took another step forward. His name tag read Jensen. "I'm talking to you, Grandpa. Some of us have important places to be. We're training to defend this country. What are you doing?" "Making the floor wet," he sneered, looking to his two buddies for approval. They snickered, their own faces a mixture of bravado and uncertainty. Samuel looked up. His eyes, a pale, washed-out blue, were clear and steady. They held no anger, no fear, just a deep, quiet patience that seemed to unnerve the young recruit more than any shouted retort would have. "The floor needs cleaning, son," Samuel said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, like stones shifting at the bottom of a river. "Just give me a moment." "A moment?" Jensen scoffed, stepping right into the wet patch Samuel had just mopped, leaving a perfect imprint of his combat boot. "We don't have a moment. We have drills. We have a schedule. You're an obstacle." He gestured dismissively at the old man. "You're in the way of the United States Army." Samuel simply dipped his mop back into the bucket, the water sighing. He began to work on the boot print, his movements economical and practiced. His hands, gnarled with age and mapped with the fine lines of 1,000 repairs, held the wooden handle with a surprising firmness. There was a stillness about him, a centeredness that was the complete opposite of Jensen's restless energy. It was this stillness that seemed to fuel the recruit's rage. He was being ignored, dismissed by a nobody, a janitor. "Did you hear me?" Jensen's voice rose, cracking slightly. He kicked the yellow plastic bucket. Water sloshed over the side, spreading in a dirty wave across the floor. "I said, get out of the way." Samuel stopped mopping. He straightened his back, which seemed to take a monumental effort, and looked directly at Jensen. He didn't say a word. He just looked. And in that look, Jensen saw something he didn't understand. It wasn't defiance. It was something older, harder. It was a look that had seen things Jensen could only imagine from video games and movies. It made the recruit feel small, and he hated it. To cover his own sudden unease, Jensen lashed out again. "What are you staring at, old-timer?" He jabbed a finger at Samuel's chest. His finger snagged on a thin, silver chain tucked beneath the collar of the old man's work shirt. With a cruel tug, Jensen pulled it out. Dangling from the end wasn't a cross or a dog tag. It was a strange-looking metal, dark and heavy, with a design he'd never seen before. It was worn smooth at the edges, clearly old, but it held a strange, dull luster. "What's this piece of junk? You win this at a carnival for popping balloons." His friends laughed, the sound loud and tinny in the hallway. Samuel's eyes narrowed, just slightly. It was the only change in his expression. "That was given to me," he said, his voice still quiet, but now with a core of steel beneath the gravel. "Give it back." "Give it back," Jensen mimicked in a creaky, exaggerated old man voice. "Or what? You gonna hit me with your mop?" He held the metal up, letting it swing back and forth. "Looks fake. Probably bought it at a surplus store to impress people, telling them you were some kind of hero." He shoved Samuel's shoulder. It was a hard shove, meant to intimidate, to dominate. Samuel stumbled back a step, his worn boots slipping on the wet floor. He didn't fall, but the movement was enough. For Jensen, this was the final straw. This old man, this janitor, was refusing to be broken, refusing to show fear. In his twisted, immature logic, it was the ultimate sign of disrespect to his uniform, to his authority. His training, his aggression, all the pressure of being a recruit, boiled over into a single, stupid, irreversible action. His fist shot out. It wasn't a trained punch, just a hard, angry strike. His knuckles connected with the old man's cheekbone with a sickening crack. Samuel's head snapped to the side. The impact sent him stumbling backward, his legs giving way. He fell to the floor, not with a loud crash, but with a quiet, heavy finality. He landed on his side, his head hitting the linoleum with a dull thud. The metal, torn from Jensen's grasp by the force of the blow, flew through the air and skittered across the floor, coming to a stop near the wall, gleaming under the cold lights. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Jensen stood over the fallen man, his chest heaving, his knuckles already starting to ache. His friends had stopped laughing. Their faces were pale, the humor gone, replaced by shock. They were soldiers in training. They were taught to fight enemies, not to strike down elderly janitors in a hallway. Samuel didn't move. He lay on his side, the sharp, antiseptic smell of the cleaning fluid filling his nostrils, the cold of the floor seeping through his thin shirt. His cheek throbbed with a dull, familiar ache. He'd felt this pain before. The cold floor beneath him wasn't linoleum anymore. It was frozen mud. The smell wasn't pine sol, it was cordite and iron. The fluorescent lights weren't buzzing overhead. It was the whine of incoming mortar fire. The world dissolved. It was 1968. Not Vietnam. A place that wasn't on any public map. A frozen, godforsaken valley deep behind enemy lines. He wasn't Samuel Finch, the janitor. He was Sergeant Croft, call sign Spectre. His team of 6 Green Berets was cut off, surrounded, and running out of everything. They were the tip of a spear for an operation so classified that their country would deny their existence if they were captured or killed. For 3 days, they had held a critical mountain pass, preventing an enemy regiment from flanking a major American offensive. Now, the regiment was done waiting. He was pressed into a shallow rock crevice, the stock of his rifle cold enough to burn his skin. Snow and dirt kicked up around him as machine gun fire stitched a line across the rocks above his head. Young Lieutenant Cole, barely 21, was beside him, trying to work the radio, his hands shaking so badly he could barely key the mic. Spectre, nothing. It's all static. Croft didn't look at him. His eyes were scanning the ridge opposite them, where the enemy was massing for a final assault. Hundreds of them. There were only 4 of his team left alive. Keep trying, Lieutenant. We hold till dawn. That was the order. Dawn. Cole's voice was a choked whisper. Sergeant, there's no way we'll last another 10 minutes. Croft pulled the pin from his last grenade. He knew the lieutenant was right, but orders were orders. And beyond orders, there was the man next to him, and the 2 others further down the line. He wasn't going to let them die here. He looked at the lieutenant, a kid from Ohio who dreamed of being a soldier his whole life, and was now living the nightmare. Listen to me, sir. When I move, you and the others pull back to the secondary rally point. Understand? I'll buy you some time. No, I'm not leaving you. That's an order, Lieutenant, Croft said, his voice leaving no room for argument. It was a lie. A sergeant couldn't order an officer, but in that moment, rank meant nothing. Survival meant everything. Before Cole could protest further, Croft broke from cover, laying down a burst of suppressive fire. He ran, zigzagging across the open ground toward a better vantage point, drawing the full attention of the enemy. It was a suicide run. He knew it, but it was the only move he had left. The grenade felt heavy in his hand. The sound of screeching tires on asphalt ripped him from the memory. The whine of mortars was replaced by the roar of powerful engines. The frozen mud was a polished floor again. Samuel blinked, the fluorescent lights of the hallway blinding him for a second. He was still on the ground. Recruit Jensen was still standing over him, his face a mask of confusion and dawning horror. 2 black sedans had screeched to a halt directly outside the facility's glass doors. They were the kind of vehicles that moved without regard for speed limits or parking regulations on a military base. Before the engines were even cut, doors flew open and 4 men in sharp suits emerged, scanning the area. They were followed by 2 officers, their uniforms so crisp they looked like they were forged from metal. On their shoulders, stars gleamed. 2 of them. One man was a tall, imposing figure with silver hair and a jaw that looked like it was carved from granite. The other was shorter, stockier, with a kind but firm face. They were Lieutenant General Harding and Major General Cole. They strode into the building as if they owned it, their presence sucking all the air out of the hallway. Every soldier in sight snapped to attention, their backs ramrod straight, their faces frozen in a mixture of fear and awe. Jensen and his friends, who had been paralyzed by their own stupidity, suddenly remembered they were in the army. They snapped to a clumsy, terrified attention. General Harding's eyes swept the scene, taking in the overturned bucket, the puddle of dirty water, the terrified recruits, and the old man lying on the floor. His face, already stern, hardened into a thunderous mask of fury. But it was General Cole who moved first. His eyes had locked onto the small, dark object on the floor near the wall. The metal. His breath caught in his throat. He moved past Jensen as if the recruit didn't exist, his polished boots clicking urgently on the floor. He knelt down, not with the creak of an aging general, but with the swift, fluid motion of a young soldier. He reached Samuel's side. "Mr. Finch," he said, his voice filled with a shocked reverence that made no sense to anyone watching. "Sir, are you all right?" The word "sir" hung in the air, electric and impossible. A two-star general was calling the janitor sir. Jensen's jaw went slack. His entire world was tilting on its axis. General Cole gently helped Samuel sit up, his expression a mixture of profound concern and disbelief. Meanwhile, General Harding had walked over and picked up the medal. He held it in the palm of his hand, his fingers tracing its worn edges. He turned, his gaze sweeping over the crowd of soldiers that had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. His eyes were like chips of ice. "Does anyone here know what this is?" he boomed, his voice echoing through the now silent hall. He held the medal up for all to see. "This isn't a Medal of Honor. It's not a Silver Star or a Navy Cross. Most of you have never seen it. Most of you never will. It's called the Sentinel's Cross." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "It has been authorized by presidential decree exactly 3 times in this nation's history. It has only been awarded once. It is given for valor above and beyond all measure, in actions so sensitive that they can never be publicly acknowledged. It is awarded to a soldier who becomes a ghost, whose name is erased from the records to protect the secrets he was forced to keep. It is awarded to a man who sacrifices everything, his name, his history, his honor, for his country." His gaze fell upon Samuel, who was now being helped to his feet by General Cole. "It was awarded to the man you know as Samuel Finch. The man his team knew as Sergeant Croft. The man the enemy knew, for a very brief and terrifying time, as Spectre." A collective gasp went through the crowd. The name was a whisper, a legend in the most elite circles of special forces. A ghost story they told new recruits to scare them straight. A one-man army who had supposedly held off an entire battalion by himself somewhere in the Cold War. They thought it was just a story. General Harding's eyes locked onto Jensen. The recruit looked like he was about to collapse. 55 years ago, the general's voice dropped, becoming low and intense. A 6-man team was sent on an impossible mission. They were surrounded, outnumbered 100 to 1. Their communications were down. Their situation was hopeless. Their sergeant, this man, he gestured to Samuel, gave an order to his young, terrified lieutenant. He ordered him to fall back with the remaining survivors while he stayed behind to cover their retreat. He faced an entire enemy regiment. Alone, General Cole spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. "I was that lieutenant. He saved my life. He saved all of our lives. We made it out because he stayed. We never knew what happened to him." The official report listed him as missing in action, presumed dead. His real file was buried under so much black ink it was a coffin in a filing cabinet. "We thought he was gone forever." Harding continued, his voice rising to a roar again as he fixed his glare on Jensen. "This man is a living legend. He is a national treasure walking among you, and you are not worthy to clean the mud from his boots. And you." He took a menacing step toward the trembling recruit. "You put your hands on him." The silence in the hallway was absolute. It was so quiet you could hear the frantic pounding of Jensen's heart. He was shaking from head to toe, his face as white as a sheet. The world had shrunk to the furious face of the general and the calm, steady eyes of the old man he had just struck. "Base commander," Harding roared, without turning his head. A full colonel, who had been standing at the edge of the crowd, rushed forward. "Sir, this entire base is on lockdown. Effective immediately. All training is suspended. I want every man on this post, from the lowest private to the highest officer, assembled on the main parade ground in 30 minutes. They are all going to learn a lesson today about what the word respect truly means." He then turned back to Jensen, his voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. As for you, recruit, master-at-arms, take this disgrace into custody. He is to be confined to the brig. I will deal with him personally. Two burly MPs materialized, grabbing Jensen by the arms. The recruit didn't resist. He was utterly broken. As they led him away, his eyes met Samuel's for a fleeting second. He saw no triumph there, no satisfaction. He only saw a deep, profound sadness. And that was somehow the worst punishment of all. Later, in the quiet, wood-paneled office of the base commander, Samuel sat in a comfortable leather chair, a cup of coffee warming his hands. A medic had cleaned the cut on his cheek, which was already beginning to bruise. Generals Harding and Cole sat opposite him, their anger replaced by a deep, quiet awe. "We've been looking for you for years, Sergeant," Cole said softly. "After the mission files were declassified 30 years later, we tried to find you. There was no trace. It was like you had vanished from the earth." Samuel took a slow sip of his coffee. "That was the point, General. Spectre had to disappear. So I became Samuel Finch. Found a quiet life. I like the quiet." "Quiet?" Harding scoffed gently. "Working as a janitor on an army base? You could have had anything. A pension, honors, a quiet farm somewhere." Samuel smiled, a faint, sad smile. "This place, it feels familiar. The sounds, the rhythm. It felt like being close to home, in a strange way. Watching the new ones, the next generation. It kept me grounded." There was a knock at the door. The base commander opened it to reveal the two MPs with a handcuffed, tear-streaked recruit Jensen between them. He looked like a child. "Bring him in," Harding commanded. Jensen was marched to the center of the room, where he stood, head bowed, in front of the three men. He couldn't bring himself to look at Samuel. I am so sorry, sir," he whispered, his voice choked with shame. "There's no excuse. I was arrogant. I was stupid. I am ashamed." The generals looked to Samuel, ceding the floor to him. The old man set his coffee cup down and slowly rose from his chair. He walked over to the recruit, his footsteps soft on the plush carpet. He stood before him for a long moment, studying the young, broken man. Then, he reached out with his gnarled hand and gently lifted Jensen's chin, forcing the recruit to meet his gaze. "Look at me, son," Samuel said, his voice soft. "That uniform you're wearing, it doesn't automatically grant you honor. It's a responsibility. It's a promise to be better than you are. Stronger, wiser, more compassionate." He paused, his pale blue eyes searching Jensen's. "Strength isn't in your fists. It's in your restraint. Honor isn't in how others see you, but in how you treat those you think no one is watching. You failed that promise today." Jensen flinched, expecting the final, damning blow. "But," Samuel continued, his voice gentle, "every soldier gets a second chance. It's what we do. We get knocked down, we get back up. We learn. We adapt." He turned to the generals. "Don't kick him out. He's got fire in his belly. It's just pointed in the wrong direction. Teach him. Teach him that the real enemy is his own pride. Make him the kind of soldier you would have wanted by your side in that valley." General Cole. Cole and Harding stared, speechless. After everything, the old hero was asking for mercy for his attacker. He was offering grace instead of demanding vengeance. The story of what happened that day became a permanent part of the training curriculum at Fort Braden. Recruit Jensen was not discharged. He was assigned to Samuel Finch for 2 months. Every morning before dawn, he would report to the janitor's closet. He mopped floors, cleaned latrines, and listened. He listened to the stories of an old man who had seen the very best and worst of humanity and had chosen to spend his final years in quiet service. He learned that the mop in Samuel's hand was as much a tool of duty as the rifle he was training to carry. He learned humility. He learned respect. And he went on to become an exemplary soldier, forever carrying the lesson taught to him by the ghost who walked the halls. It serves as a powerful reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms or carry medals in plain sight. Sometimes they carry mops and buckets, their greatness hidden behind a quiet dignity that we so often fail to see. We walk past them every day, never knowing the giants who live among us. We hope this story has moved you. It's a testament to the fact that you can never judge a book by its cover and that true heroes often seek no recognition. If you were inspired by Samuel's story of quiet strength and forgiveness, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more tales of unsung heroes. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that respect is owed to everyone, regardless of their station in life.